Welcome to today's edition of the channel's book club. Maya Angelou, the internationally acclaimed poet, author, and civil rights icon, passed away on May 28, 2014. She was 86 years old. Described as one of the most inspiring women that ever lived, Maya has been honored with more than 50 awards, including America's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, for her collected works of poetry, fiction, and non-fiction, most notably her groundbreaking memoir, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. President Barack Obama called her one of the brightest lights of our time, a brilliant writer, a fierce friend, and a truly phenomenal woman. Her last tweet read, "Listen to yourself, and in that quietude, you might hear the voice of God." Maya, in more ways than one, represented the concept of womanhood, and she inspired many women to be the best that they can be. In today's episode, we have a fascinating young woman who is a gifted poet, writer, and lawyer. Donna joined us to discuss Maya Angelou and also her own works. We'll be right back after this break.
That girl child, the president's daughter, raised only by nannies, thoroughly trained on the streets by many forms of the male species, never told, don't let boys touch you, you get pregnant, you see. Given all that she wanted plus everything that mother pleased, we are the ones in power, living large, enough money, until at 16, her missing period no one could account for.
On the channel's book club, Donna.
Thank you for having me.
I'm sure viewers want to know a bit about you. Let's start with you, then we talk about Maya, and then we end with you again. So share with us a bit. You're a poet, a lawyer, a writer. You mix all these things in one bag.
Yes, I have, yes.
How do you do all that?
My name is Donna. Born to Prince and Princess Babatunde and Sesi Ogunaike of the Fidipote clan in Djibouti. Married to Tunde Shodipo. I'm an oil and gas lawyer with the law firm of Adequate and Caxton Martins Agban Shegun. I'm a senior associate in the firm. I've been working in the firm for almost 13 years doing oil and gas law, property, environmental, joint venture agreements, production sharing contracts, all of those things. It is one of my talents, legal practice. I'm also a poet. I love to write. I love to read. I love to perform poetry. I love words. I live in words. And I keep saying that it was by words I was formed. I mean, my father said, I love you to my mother, and I'm here. So I love words. And that's what I do. I write whenever I can. I read whenever I can, and I perform. So yes, I'm an energy lawyer and a poet.
Is there going to be a time you have to make a decision?
I think, you know, I keep saying that my goal is to die empty. I think that God put all kinds of gifts on the inside of each individual. And I think it is unfair for us to only do one or the other. Who says that we can only do one or the other? So I'm going to do everything. I've been doing everything for this long, and I'm going to completely do everything and die very empty.
We'll come back to you.
Okay.
But we need to talk about Maya.
Oh,
You're a poet
I am.
and a woman.
I am.
Maya died on the 28th of May. How do you describe, or rather, how would you describe Maya's place in literary history and also in poetry?
I do not believe it's possible to discuss the development of performance poetry, of spoken word, of activism in the United States and not mention Maya Angelou. I think that she thrived through all kinds of difficult circumstances, and she came out extremely successful. A lot of it was through pain, but she is the essence of a true survivor, and not just a survivor, but one who excels at surviving. So I think that when you talk about people that speak for the Black American women, you will mention her. When you talk about people that spoke for the Black American fight for equality and for the destruction of racism, you will mention her. She worked closely with Malcolm X. She worked closely with Martin Luther. Unfortunately, at the times that she worked with them, not long after they died. And it had a devastating effect on her. In fact, she didn't write until after they had died. She was 40 when she started writing prose. She'd been writing poetry and doing calypso dancing and everything she needed to do to survive. This, having suffered trauma at the age of 8, she was raped by her mother's husband at the time, Freeman, I think he was called. And she was so traumatized she didn't speak for 5 years. And she came out, when she started speaking, she started writing at that same time. So you see her get refined through tribulation, through trauma, through trouble, and refuse to let it kill her. You know, so I don't think that you can talk about even people who have suffered and come out of it without mentioning Maya Angelou. You can't do it.
There's this debate about how she'll be most remembered. Will she be remembered more as a poet or as a prose writer? Or rather, autobiographical fiction writer, like some would describe her.
Yeah.
Maya wrote about 7 autobiographies.
Yes, she did.
And some of them were very popular, particularly the first one.
Yes.
But a lot of people don't seem to remember, you know, her prowess as a poet as much as they remember that first book, for example.
Yes.
Ask the average young chap there, and he will say,
I know why the cage bird sings.
I know why the cage bird sings.
Yes.
So how would you describe that part of Maya? Do you respect her more as a poet or more as a prose writer?
I respect Maya as Maya. You know, she's wholesome. Maya Angelou is wholesome. When you cannot think about Maya and not think about every facet that she has affected in her life. You can't think about her and not think about rape victims. You can't think about her and not think about activism. You cannot think about her and not think about good writing. You can't think about her and not think about performed poetry. So me personally, she just stands for Maya. She stands for that woman that is all-encompassing. But you are right, in terms of traditional literary writing, the critics, they appreciate her prose more than they appreciate her poetry. That was, of course, until 1993 when she performed at Bill Clinton's inauguration and you know, broke a record of her time. And why did they do so? Because her literary writing skills were contemporary for her time. And they were groundbreaking, because what she did was she was challenged by I think her producer and one other person, I don't remember their names now, but she was challenged by them to write her autobiography, because she was going through pain, having lost, first of all, Malcolm X and then Martin Luther. She was going through a lot of pain and a lot of devastation she was through. So these guys said, look, write an autobiography that is also literature, that is also a story, that can also be read like a classical book. So she broke boundaries, and she constantly kept on pushing the boundaries of autobiographical writing.
You read your poems.
I do.
Unlike a couple of other people I've seen or listened to.
Yes.
You tend to read your own poems.
Yes.
Were you inspired by Maya to do that? And I mean, is that the best way to do performance poetry?
No, sadly, no, I wasn't inspired by Maya to do that. It's just, it started out of convenience for me, because I work hard in my day job. My law firm is one of the best internationally recognized Nigerian law firms in the country. We're #1 for oil and gas practice. So you can imagine we work ridiculous hours. And so whenever I have a spare moment, all I can do is write a poem. So when it's time to perform it, I'm taking out of my free time. All I can do is read it. That's how it started. Yes, because you know, because I'm constantly working. So I haven't yet had the time. People say, oh, a true artist, you know, should memorize their words. It's fine, but I believe that everybody has its own, and from doing that, it's even become an extension of me. People actually say, oh, she's coming with her playbook, you know, she's coming with her script, and it doesn't affect my performance, thankfully. It doesn't affect my energy. So no, but I was glad when I saw her perform, because I didn't even watch her performance until many years later. When I saw her read it, I again breathed easy.
You're relieved.
I thought, okay, if mother poetry, mother black poetry, black female poetry, can read her poems, you know, why can't I? You know, because the truth is, before performance poetry kicked off, it was just recitals. You would just go for a reading, and people would read their poems. So, yeah, I think in many ways she resonates with me. But for me, it started out as convenience, and it has sort of become a part of my persona.
Okay.